Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Well, good Sunday morning to all of my beautiful coffee beans out there in the world. We are rocking it out quite early this morning. Hopefully you remembered to move your clocks ahead an hour because it's a little bit later than you might think.
Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like.
Well, good morning, my beautiful coffee beans. Come on in. It's Sunday, March 8th. We're doing a redo from last night.
Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. 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 Today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Bullhorn Betty, and we cover the case of Nancy Guthrie. Will we ever know what happened to Nancy Guthrie? That is the question that's hanging over this case this morning.
From the East Coast to the West Coast, we are everywhere true crime is. We are asking for the public's help. We are searching in the woods. We are doing what it takes here on the Bullhorn Betty channels to find answers to the most alarming cases we have been watching on the news. I can tell you personally that I have traveled this entire country seeking these answers and bringing that content right here to you here on the Bullhorn Betty channels and Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. We are happy with the work that we've done. We brought many answers to the public, and we have defied mainstream media in our pursuit of the truth in these cases. We will continue to work, we will continue to fight for these victims, and we will continue to tell their stories here on my channels. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty brand of channels and the Coffee Club. Thank you for your love, thank you for your support, and more importantly, thank you for allowing me to bring these victims' stories to each and every one of you, advocating for each of these victims. God bless you. God bless America, and more importantly, God bless our victims.
An 84-year-old grandmother, a woman of faith, a mother of one of the most recognizable journalists in America, vanishes from her own bed in an upscale Arizona neighborhood. And a month later, with hundreds of investigators, DNA, video, detainments, and a cleared family, we are no closer to the truth than we were on day one. An empty house, a trail of blood by the front door, a missing doorbell camera, and a family that went from suspected to officially cleared in just over 2 weeks. This is the story of Nancy Guthrie, and this morning we're asking a hard question. Will we ever know what happened to her? Because if law enforcement, the FBI, 400 investigators working around the clock, surveillance video, detainments, DNA, and a 7-figure reward can't crack this, what does this say about justice for Nancy or her family? Let's go back to the beginning. Late on the night of January 31st, Nancy is dropped off at her home in the Catalina foothills after a family dinner. Her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, is the last person to see her alive, watching her walk into her home. The next morning, she doesn't show up to church. This is not a woman who just forgets Sunday service. Friends noticed. They called the family. The family goes by the house. What they find changes everything. Nancy is gone, but her car, wallet, phone, and medication still inside the home. The question is, what other evidence was inside the home? Outside, near the entry, there is blood, later confirmed to be hers, and the doorbell camera that should have been recording the last moments at her front door has been removed. In a matter of hours, her home goes from a sanctuary to a crime scene. From almost the very beginning, homicide investigators are called in, a rare move when you don't have a body. Even if the words homicide isn't in the press release, it's already in the room. In any disappearance, investigators start with the last person to see the victim alive. In Nancy's case, that's her son-in-law, Tommaso. He dropped her off at the house. He's on camera with her. He knows her routine. Rumors ignite online almost immediately. Is the son-in-law the prime suspect? Social media and comment sections treat him like a de facto person of interest long before any officials say it out loud. For days, the family in that awful gray zone, technically not ruled out. Every move they make is picked apart. Why did they say this? Why did they say that? Why is he so quiet? Why isn't he in the video? Why is she emotional here and composed there? Then comes the turning point. On February 16th, the staff finally draws a line. He issues a statement saying in plain language that the entire Guthrie family, including all siblings and their spouses, have been cleared as possible suspects. To be clear, he said, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouse, have been cleared as possible suspects in the case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious in our victims in this case. That includes Tommaso Cioni, specifically named in some coverage as having been ruled out despite the earlier conjecture about his involvement. So the internet had its suspect, and the sheriff just took him away. If this wasn't a family job, if Tommaso and everyone else are victims, not villains, then who walked up to that door, removed that camera, and took Nancy out of her bed that night? As the search ramps up, investigators recover video, a masked person, armed, in a jacket, moving near Nancy's home. Still images go out nationwide. This is the moment everyone thinks, we've got him. Within hours, a man in Rio Rico, later identified in media interview as Carlos, is detained during a stop. He says agents showed his in-laws picture of a masked figure and said the eyes look like his. He is questioned, his property is searched, and then he's released. No charges, no public accusation. Law enforcement won't even confirm his name. And analysis tell local outlet what they really mean. Either they don't think he's the guy, or they have nothing that will hold up in court. He's not the only one. Multiple persons of interest have been detained, questioned, or searched, and then have walked away free. A veteran FBI agent describes it bluntly: 400 investigators, 24/7 operation, DNA recovered at the scene, weeks of leads, and still no suspect. CODIS comes back with no match. No vehicle is definitively tied to the abduction. The trail that looked hot goes ice cold. A reporter standing outside the quiet house calls the atmosphere haunting. Media trucks, nervous neighbors, an ever-present sense of something terrible, and yet an unsettling stillness as meaningful updates dry up. This is the part of the movie where the big break is supposed to come, the dramatic arrest, the perp walk, but this isn't a movie. The detainments led nowhere. The DNA matches no one, and Nancy is still gone. Behind the scenes, operations are shifting from hundreds of agents to a smaller, long-term task force. The helicopters go away, the search grid shrinks, the national push alert slows down. Forensic experts warn that the key evidence might not be the obvious blood or fingerprint, but a hair, a fiber, an overlooked trace that has to be cobbled together with everything else to move the case forward. That is slow, painstaking work, and there's no guarantee it will ever be enough. Commentators who have been there on the ground are starting to say the unthinkable out loud. This may become one of those cases that never gets solved, despite everything poured into it. This morning, Nancy Guthrie's family has been cleared. The earlier person of interest is living his life again. The man detained after the mass suspect image was sent home. The DNA found at the scene belongs to someone who doesn't show up in any database we know about. And an 84-year-old grandmother is still missing from a house that should have been the safest place in her world. So I'm going to ask the question that nobody in authority wants to put on record. Will we ever know what happened to Nancy Guthrie? Is this a case that ends with an arrest, a trial, and answers? Or is this going to be another file in a cabinet, unsolved, unexplained, and forgettable only to the people who loved her? Over the next 2 hours, we're going to walk through every twist and turn you haven't been told, every theory experts are quietly talking about, and the decisions by investigators, by the media, and by all of us online that will decide whether Nancy's story ends with justice or with silence, like the Sebastian Rogers case. Well, hello, we are live. We made it. We made it. We made it. If you have never been to my show before and you're saying, what is she talking about? The system went down last night. This was the live we were supposed to do last night. And my entire system went down. And it didn't just go down. It wouldn't come back up. And so I'm like freaking out. And then when I did a battery reset, my battery's kind of on the fritz in the MacBook Pro. It has for years. I mean, for the last 2 years, it's been one of these things. You got to be careful with the battery. I haven't had any problems with it, so I haven't checked it. It was out of sight, out of mind until the system went down last night. So finally, when I got the system back up, I was so exhausted from having a day with my BFF and then having the system go down that I just was like, you know what, the hell with it. Honestly, that's the way I felt. I was just so spent by the time the computer system came back up that I'm just was thankful that, hey, you know what, tomorrow morning, at least I know I can go live, right? That's all we cared about. I did find out one faulty thing that's going on is my OBS on my Windows-based computer is not working. So I should have been able to swap out laptops and pick up the show and just keep going on. And I tried to swap out the laptops, and of course I couldn't sign in on the Windows version into OBS to even pull the, program to run it. So it was a little frustrating all the way around yesterday for me. And so I'm setting the other one up on the computer and making sure that it runs live. And I might have to start doing a few lives from it so it doesn't, if it does need to update, I make sure I'm not having technical issues and then having to try to update another system. It was just a pain in the butt. So if you're wondering why I look like Bedhead Betty, I did brush my hair, I did brush my teeth, but I didn't slap on any makeup, and I'm still in the clothes that we were going to do the live in yesterday. If you guys think that's disgusting, it's okay. It's Sunday. There's a lot of day left, okay? I'm just saying. I'm just not with it, okay? If you guys did not just hear my story, I had a rough night last night, okay? It was not pretty, but I will tell you, after I finally got the computer up and running, I went straight to bed. That's what I did. I went straight to bed and I figured I would just deal with it in the morning. So here we go, guys. We've been covering the case of Nancy Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie is an 84-year-old grandmother that was ripped out of her bed in the middle of the night by a masked gunman. There is no other way to describe what this poor lady went through except that, because that is the reality of the situation and the reality of this case. Whether we like those details or not, whether we think those details are violent or, you feel that those have been, they might be embellished. They're not. This frail lady was ripped from her private residence right above my head. This home is beautiful. She's lived there for decades. She felt very safe. This was her home. This is where she raised her beautiful family. She felt absolutely 100% safe inside this home. She never even got the stupid cameras for security. She got the cameras for wildlife. She literally had zero fear in this home. And you know what? At the end of the day, that's the way your home should feel. Okay? How many feel that that's the way your home should feel? You should feel absolutely 100% secured and safe inside your home. If you agree with that statement, put a 1 in the chat. If you disagree with that statement, put a 2 in the chat. I'm not saying what the reality is. I'm saying you should feel the most comfortable and the most safe inside your private residence. At least I do. Okay? So I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm a 1. If you're a 1, put a 1 in the chat. If you're a 2, if you're like, yeah, you know what? No. You're wrong. You shouldn't feel safe inside your home. Put a 2 in the chat, because I've lived here for a decade. I've been through a lot of ups and downs. I've got an officer, a Bradenton police officer that literally lives right there. So I feel safe here. I'm 2.5 miles. I'm not even thinking about 2.5 miles. I think like a half a mile, maybe a mile away from, what is perceived our ghetto. I'm not that, I'm like right on the other side of the 8 mile, so to speak. I'm on the good side of the 8 mile, right? But the 8 miles just right down the road, right? And I feel safe here. We've had some crime, even on this street. I had a neighbor come up and knock on my door, and say, anything happened last night? I'm like, why? My car was stolen. I'm like, what? Car was stolen. That's the second neighbor that I've actually lived next to that woke up and their car was gone. I remember in my very first house I purchased, this being my second. So both houses I've lived at, there was a news reporter that worked for Spectrum 9 that lived next to me, and when I lived out on 64 by the interstate. And she came over and knocked on my door one day, and she's like, did you see what happened in my car? I'm like, no. Why? She's like, I woke up this morning, my husband went to work, And when I came out here, my car was gone. And when I called my husband, he doesn't remember seeing it that morning. I'm thinking, your husband didn't think to call the cops? I'm just saying, right? And then the neighbor down the road, but see, the one that just recently happened, like within the last year, they left their keys in their vehicle, which is a no-no, right? You never leave your keys in your vehicle. Folks, if you're leaving your keys in your vehicles, please don't. Please. And please don't. I mean, to have Bullhorn Betty tell you some common sense is okay. Stop. Don't leave your keys in the car, folks. I know it's convenient, but I don't know how your insurance company is going to compensate you for stupidity. Okay, I'm just saying. Very safe, semi-rural area here. My next door neighbor car was stolen right out of her driveway. Yeah, this is happening quite often. So be careful, folks. But I also knew that because I left my car by accidentally unlocked. And yes, my one of my wallets, which I forgot was even in the car. It was an old zipper thing. It probably had miscellaneous stuff in it because my wallet has all the cards that I need, right? But God knows. I mean, God knows what they took out of that wallet. I don't ever remember seeing it, but I do remember seeing it on my seat that morning. And I'm like, when he came over to tell me about his car, I said, you know what? I said, my wallet was torn apart in my car. And I said, I forgot I even had this in there. I said, this is an old wallet from years and years ago. I doubt it had anything meaningful in it. But it might have had a gift card or something like that in it, right? That they got a hold of. But, but even that was a violation of my, sanctity and security. So I think it's very important to understand that, because even out here in this area, all these people have been living in these houses for so long, but they haven't had the policies that they've had, recently. And they've never had for decades, our border has not been so porous as it's been in the last 10 years, right? And so it's brought a lot of dangers in. And at the end of the day, folks, what we're seeing out here in Arizona is enough to scare people. To see is this many people out there in that community creeping. This is, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, but this is a total failure of government. Okay, and there's no other way that I can say that. It's a total failure of government. And I know the people out here living here is going to be like, oh no, it's not. We're just trying to live in peace and harmony with the wildlife. No, you're putting yourself in danger. And an 84-year-old woman was ripped out of her bed in the middle of the night, and God knows what happened to her. So let's cut the crap. Okay, I'm not one that sits there and walks on eggshells. I like throwing all the truth on the table, seeing what we have and finding ways to fix it. Yes, we're going to go over that here in just a second. Thank you for bringing that up. I've actually got it. I've actually got this up right here. Is it there? Where is it? There it is. I've actually got it up right here. So, what Blessed Happy Nana is referring to is we've got some fairly devastating news, folks. Okay. Many of you know that I absolutely adore the E family. When I first started talking about Sebastian Rogers' case, one of the things, because I'm very honest with my audience, if I'm not wise or don't have education or experience in a certain subject matter, I let my audience know that, right? Because I'm not, for whatever reason, I don't feel like I need to be a master of everything, right? So I'm not, and I know that. And I think honesty is always the best policy. So when we started the Sebastian Rogers case, I will tell you, I was very ignorant when it came to autism, the spectrum, how children with autism function, the nuances with autism. I was very, very ignorant, very green. Many of my audience members were as well. A lot of my audience members that I acquired came to our channel to, in all fairness, help us understand autism. And then while we were talking about these cases, this Sebastian Roger case, they just kind of stuck, because it was something that we kind of bonded on, learning a little bit about autism, all the facets of autism, all the nuances, the different tics each child had, how different each child was, how smart each child was in their own way, how their brain functioned, how important it was for routine and structure and, not overstimulating. We learned all those things, but one of the first people that reached out to me when I was going out there and getting this case and really trying to help was the E family. Mr. and Mrs. E reached out to me, and they heard I was coming into town, and they wanted to meet with me, and they wanted to go over some things about their own son and just chat, just get to know one another and how they could help bring awareness to Sebastian's case and what they could expect coming into the YouTube world. And so we just went over a lot of things, but one thing I can honestly say is amazing people. I mean, you just knew that they were like amazing mom and dad just from sitting and speaking to them. They were just so genuine, so kind, ginger, patient. You could just see. If you ever meet them, you could just their kindness radiates from them. I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, it radiates from them, and I got to meet their older E, Big E, and he was supposed to be nonverbal, and they ended up working with therapists, and he can speak, he can verbalize things now, and it's just amazing how much work that they've put in. And of course, hearing that middle E was going through something like brain cancer, it was hard. But we learned about the E family and the struggles that they've had and how they've managed to overcome a lot of those struggles. Well, they're asking us for prayers, and I know they're not going to do this live, but maybe we should do a live for this prayer, just to remind everybody when the prayer is to happen, because they're wanting to do it tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 7 p.m. in Eastern Time. And we want to have hope, and we know that God in prayer moves mountains. And right now they need this mountain moved. So it looks like middle E's prognosis is not what we thought it would be. And they don't want to stop fighting. So they're asking for all of us that do believe, that can pray, to pray. So that's going to be our request here. Even if we don't do a live Monday at 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we want to take the time to make sure we log that into our calendar and into our phones, so we can take our time and pray over this family that needs healing and strength and courage and a lot of other things. So this is I can't imagine what how hard this must be for the entire family. So I know that they want all the prayers going to middle E, but we're kind of a channel that can walk and chew gum, and we know that. So we would also like to ask you guys to pray over the family, not just middle E, but the entire family, the entire E family. They need courage, they need strength, they need healing for themselves, mind, body, and soul. So I think this is kind of the whole entire family prayer in all reality. But I know that they would be angry if I took the prayers away from middle E. So I want to make sure that our 7 p.m. Eastern Time is designated for
middle E, but those times around that time, we can definitely pray for the entire family. So just keep the E family in your prayers as they struggle through some of the most difficult waters they've had to tread. Okay. So with that said, I just wanted to give the time to them that this needed. Please keep them in your thoughts and in your prayers. I just wanted to let you know this is part of the Sebastian's army that has been fighting for answers in Sebastian's case. This was in Sumner County, Tennessee. And these are groups that we get all over this country when we have a missing child. So I just am very blessed with the work that we're able to do. And, I was sitting here thinking, to myself, there's not a state I can go into where I don't have a friend or somebody in the coffee club family that can help generate something like this. Every place we go to, we can generate something like this. And we are truly blessed here on these platforms that give us this opportunity to fight for these victims of crimes and do it lovingly and do it with people, other people involved. So thank you to the Coffee Club family. Thank you to Sebastian's Army. I didn't get an opportunity to thank you guys. I haven't gotten Brooke her flowers yet. I do intend on doing that probably in this next week. This was an interesting situation that I wanted to read for you guys because I found it interesting. But I kind of disagree with it a little bit in part. So here's what it says. It says, some believe his hand touching the doorknob, he was making contact with the house. My opinion is that he rang the doorbell twice. So let's take a look. Thanks to Sarah Coram for making the pic showing. And I don't believe that he rang the doorbell. And I'm going to go over why I don't. We can all agree that the doorknob is parallel to the doorbell. I don't know if it's parallel. It looks a little further above. The doorknobs are here. The doorbell was up here. So it's not parallel. It's kind of catty corner. It's catty corner. Yeah, parallel in the sense it's like on the same side, but catty corner from the doorknobs. Okay, we can clearly see that. Let me go back up here. So we can agree the doorknob is parallel to the doorbell. I disagree with that. I believe it's catty corner. I believe it's at an angle, not parallel. Parallel means side by side in a sense. That's at least how I look at it. Sarah's pics show his hand on the right of the doorknob because I believe he was trying to lift up from the bottom to pull it off, to pull that camera off. The only thing that is parallel to the right of the doorknob is the glass window and a doorbell. Watch the video over and over. He pushes twice. I don't think he pushes. I think he tries to rip it off twice. So I just thought it was interesting because I know you guys are going to see this, but when I look at this, when I look at the statements or, his, why isn't this going? There we go. I do not see his hand. Oh, here it is, right here. I think this is where it is. See, he's lifting. He's going up under it, and he's trying to lift it off. You can see him trying to, you can see his hand, even his index and thumbnail are about the width of the doorbell. So it looked like he was lifting it off as opposed to ringing it. I don't think this doorbell was rung. And I think that if the doorbell did get a ring or somebody pushed it, it would have indicated as such on her app. They did have those indications on the app, but again, not sure. This is something that I was going to go over, and I think I got it out of the wrong order, and we're going to have to go over this we might as well take a few moments. Hold on. We're going to take a little break from Nancy Grace, and then I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to say good morning to you, and then we'll jump back into Nancy Grace. I'm kind of all over the page today because I'm tired. We had technical issues last night. This was the show for last night, not this morning, but since it was already prepared, I went ahead and got some updated information and decided to roll with it this morning, now that we got our computer back up and running, and it's running properly. This right here is a article that a reporter in Idaho put out. The reason we've never covered this case before, and the reason why it's here is because we have covered Ellen Greenberg. We've covered other cases that should have been homicide cases that were deemed accidental or suicide without any explanation or any proper, legitimate, logical explanation from the coroner or medical examiner's office, okay? And it's because they have no explanation and they just don't feel like doing their freaking job. And it pisses me off. And this is exactly why we should have the ability as American citizens, as the taxpayers, as the people that pay for all of this, we should have a way to move cases out of crappy sheriff's hands. Okay? When people aren't doing their job, we should have the ability to say, you are fired. We pay for this all of it. We are the ones that fund every little blessed thing in America. So let's not get it twisted. And when we're not getting the services that we pay for, we should be able to say you are fired and take it someplace else. I'm sorry. That's just the way the world works and the reality of things, except in our government. And I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of having to sit here and deal with shitty-ass government officials over and over again. And we're just hopeless and helpless and can't do a damn thing about it. And you know I do not like feeling hopeless and helpless. If I ever feel hopeless and helpless, that's the project I need to be working on. That's the project I need to change. Nobody should ever have to feel like this. Okay? This is a person that wound up in the creek, and guess what they did? Accidental drowning. Accidental drowning. He was wrapped in fish line, hook through his ribs. And they called it an accidental drowning. Well, lo and behold, guess what? It wasn't a freak accident. It was a homicide that 3 other men were involved in. And you know what? What pisses me off about this case is that the details, when they found him wrapped in all of that fishing line, not one time did they ever consider, oh my gosh, how in the world could he have done this to himself? They couldn't logically explain it, but they went ahead and pushed it off as an accidental drowning. And had somebody not spilled the beans on somebody else because they were mad, this case would have went on as an accidental drowning into perpetuity when it was truly a homicide, much like Ellen Greenberg. So if you're wondering, does this happen all over the country? It does. It does. It's not good. It shouldn't, but it does. So that's kind of the beginning. We're going to get right into here. We've got some other details, breaking news that we were going to discuss because our main question is, what is the motive here? There are so many things going on. We can't even identify the motive. Was it for homicide? Was it for ransom? Was it a robbery gone wrong? What are we looking at here? And why, after all this time, do we still not have an identity on a potential vehicle? There is not one person here that can express to me that they believe Nancy Guthrie, or maybe I should put this to our audience. Do you believe that there has to be a car in the Nancy Guthrie case that moved her? If you believe there is, put a 3 in the chat. If you do not believe that there's a car, that they moved her some other way, put a 4 in the chat. What's this case? What is this case? What county? What state? Oh, I'm surprised you didn't hear about it, 101. This is Nancy Guthrie. She's out of Pima County, Arizona. 84-year-old grandmother ripped out of her bed in the middle of the night. Nobody's seen her again. We're hearing a lot of different stuff. Yeah. 3. I'm a 3. I'm a 3. I believe there was a car. So why do we not have an ID on a car? I mean, this is 2:00 in the morning in the middle of a freaking desert. How many cars are truly moving about in that 2 or 3 mile radius? I mean, we know at least 12, which, a 2-3 mile radius, 12 cars, 14 cars, that sounds, In my opinion, it's murder. I do. I believe this was a hit for whatever reason, you know. I believe that, but well, it's in the middle of nowhere, so I would recommend that you get up to date on the case. Yeah, I think there is a car. I think we've identified a car. I think it's an SUV. I do have somebody that believes it's a blue Malibu as well. So we might be a car with maybe some low profile tires on a vehicle that might be lift. I don't know. But I feel that there's at least a vehicle involved for transportation of a human body. I mean, whether she was dead or alive, she had to be transported. I mean, I don't see any videos of two individuals walking down the street, you know. There were cameras in the area, and there were cameras that picked up some stuff. They use a lot of ATVs in the area. But wouldn't they have heard that on a camera that there was an ATV? I mean, ATVs are pretty freaking noisy. I've got one. I shouldn't say I've got one. I had one. We had two. We had a 250 and a 125. My ex-husband was a 250. Mine was the 125. So, you know, they're pretty noisy and pretty stinking noticeable too. But I will tell you that even if Nancy screamed that night, I don't think they would have heard her over the coyotes. I really don't. The coyotes sound like screaming women. They really do. I listened to them. I never heard a coyote like in that type of, but there was one night that all the media was there and the coyotes were just howling and we heard them and it sounded like screaming people in the background. And I remember telling everybody, like, even if she screamed, would anybody think it was a woman screaming as opposed to these coyotes? Let's be for real here. They didn't just carry her out through the desert. That's true. I don't believe. Well, you know what? Actually, if it was a hit, they may have just done exactly that. Because I hear it's very difficult to find bodies out there in that desert. I don't know. You know, I'm not from a desert community. I'm from Florida. You know, this is going to be another one of those things that I'm very ignorant in. I do not do deserts. Okay. I just don't do deserts. People that live in deserts, they have a different type of lifestyle than even rural Floridians have. Like we have, you know, the only thing I can think of, you know, the mentality of desert people would be like the same mentality as our rural people. You know, they like their space and, you know, the humdrum life of not having all the technology. You know, we need a motive. Was anything missing? Or was it? See, I was kind of thinking essay too, honestly, Mr. Dunham, because, you know, this is one thing that this is one thing that seemed to be observed by me. And that was, it seemed like everything that he touched, he took with him. And people were telling us that there may have been an altercation in the house. Now we can't confirm that because nobody with actual knowledge, direct knowledge, has told us the condition of the inside of the house. We have assumptions, but nobody's really come forward to provide us any legitimate information on the true inside of that home. Was there a struggle? Was there a massive amount of blood? The closest thing we've got was Savannah's statement. Her mother was drug out of her bed. You know, that's really the only indicator that we know that her mother was, it seems like, was attacked on her bed. I thought, and we just had another guy, I don't know if you guys saw that, I think it was an 18-year-old or 19-year-old boy that, it's all over TikTok, that essayed a 94-year-old woman. And we talked about this essay, and I said, you know, there are people that do this to elderly people. It's not like a trend or anything like that, but it makes you wonder, what is the motivation of this individual? If the motivation of this individual is not for ransom, then it's for something else. So what is it? And we've never been, and law enforcement has never confirmed or denied You know, law enforcement has never confirmed or denied whether any of those ransoms were legitimate. We heard about, we knew the TMZ, the later ones, we knew those were bogus, right? Those were just bogus. We know that the original had a very specific cryptocurrency key or wallet. And we also heard that the next ransom had a different wallet. So, I just want to make sure that we're being factual here, because I have dismissed the ransom as being possibility, but I also want to remind people that just because I dismiss it doesn't mean it's dismissed. And just because I don't think they were real doesn't mean they weren't real. What if that first original one was? And then they never heard from them again, probably because they didn't have proof of life because something happened to Nancy. I would like to find out if they believe any of those ransoms may have been legitimate. I kind of feel like they think it was far-fetched, and that's why they kind of, once they played the, tried to identify the people, which it sounds to me they identified at least one. And we don't know if those other ones have been identified and they've been arrested, but it does feel like somebody overseas was doing something and trolling something, because there was some comments that said, USD. And if you live in the United States of America and you're talking about currency, you're only talking about United States currency. Okay. You're not talking about African currency. You're not talking about, pounds, euros, whatever, Zen, whatever the currency might be. I don't know all the currency. I apologize. I'm very ignorant in that too. But I feel like I feel like a lot of them were fake, but was the first one? That's going to always be my question. Was the first one? And that's the one that we need to focus on, is that very first one. Was that one fake? If that one was fake, then I can honestly say, in my opinion, the ransom was not a motivation. So there has to be if the ransom's not a motivation, there has to be some other motivation. I thought the ransom both were BS, but I could be wrong. Well, that, and of course, because this is where I'm covering my butt a little bit in my reporting on this, is because we've never had law enforcement or anybody of reputable source confirm one way or another whether all of the ransoms were legitimate or illegitimate, because the majority of them, we all know, were illegitimate. But was one of them real? They've never commented on that. So I don't want to, say that ransom was not a motivation. It's a low profile for me. Like, it's going to be lower on the list than other possibilities, because I would assume that if law enforcement believed that these ransoms were legitimate, they would have made a bigger deal out of them. At the time, I believe they were just playing that through to see where it leads, just in case. And you have to, right? You can't be an officer that says, oh, these, we dealt with ransoms before, they're bullshit, this is bogus, right? There's an 84-year-old woman's life that hung in the balance at that moment. So I sent an email, Nancy's driveway. Hold on, mouse. What does it say? Nancy's driveway of kidnap. Hold on a second. I'm assuming you sent it to me. Nancy's driveway. Okay, here we go. Yes. I did see those. And we did put them up here because yours wasn't the first one, mouse, that I had seen. The first one I had seen was from, let me see who it would be from real quick. Nancy. Was from Ginger Bean GA. And Ginger Bean GA was the first one that I realized there might be truly a car, because she put this out
And the stuff that you sent was a lot more because this is all I had. So we got into different filtrations, and that was really good because this was all I had prior to yours. But I did bring those up the other day. We showed all of them. And I think, and it was in the morning because I remember Justin For All was here and was asking me to point that stuff out. So this was on February 13th, very close proximity, like 11, within the first 2 weeks, we started realizing there was the possibility of this car. And some people believe that this car here is a Malibu, not an SUV. And I don't know, I'm not good with this. You know who the best people for this stuff here is, believe it or not, is like MRI techs and X-ray technicians, because they look at this stuff all the time. And this stuff, they pick out different things that we don't see because they're so used to having to look for shadows and, hairline fractures and stuff like that. I find out when we're doing the filtration, trying to pull images that might be hidden in the background of a photo to the surface. The people that help me the most in that, believe it or not, are in the medical field, and they're usually they're the ones that take the MRIs and the X-rays. They're the ones that are the most beneficial to me when deciphering these types of images. So I find it. So if you're ever working with something, just remember, if you know a friend that's an MRI tech or X-ray tech or something like that, and you're trying to find something in an image, pull them in. You'll be amazed at their eyes. Their eyes are trained for weird stuff. I just find them the best source. But yes, I do believe there is a car or an SUV back there. I just wish I knew what we're looking at. It looked like an SUV to me, but the more I look at it, you really can't tell the shape of the body. I mean, it could technically and theoretically, because of the distance and how we have to blow it up, and you don't know the angle of that camera or the type of lens that's used, so you can't research certain things about it. But it could be a car. It could be a car. As opposed to an SUV. But the reason why I thought it really would, or maybe an SUV, is because when they did the execution of the warrants on Carlos and Luke, they impounded gray SUVs. And that's when I started developing that they must be in search of a gray SUV. Because both of them had a gray SUV. One was a Nissan and one was a Range Rover. So, wonder if life insurance benefit gets paid and missing. No, they do not. The person has to be deceased. And not only this, but they have to know who. It either has to be accidental, and it can be proven accidental. This is far from being accidental. And they haven't even proven death. And life insurance is death, unless there is, cash. You can pull cash from your life insurance if it's a whole life insurance. I used to sell it. I used to sell the stuff, so I have all the, I know what the nuances is with the life insurance. But even when there's a homicide, there has to be a subject. There has to be an arrest. They will not, if there's any suspicion that somebody was murdered, and it could be anybody in the family and the heirs, they will not pay out until somebody is arrested for that homicide. In many cases, because they want to make sure they're not giving the family the money if they committed the homicide for the money. Is anyone actually believing there's a chance she's still alive? Miss Murder. I think we did run the numbers the other day, and very low channel members, channel subscribers to the Bullhorn Betty channel at least believe she's alive. I honestly, if you've been following me, I haven't believed she was alive since she, I thought she was either dying or dead when she left the house. But my audience didn't agree with me in that.
So I just want to put that caveat on there that I believe that, but my audience, the majority of my audience didn't believe that. The majority of my audience are good people. They have hope, and they believe more in humanity than I do. So they truly believed and hoped that Nancy was and is still alive, So I think more of my audience has come over the fence, that they believe, at least even if they thought she was alive when she left, they're kind of believe she's gone now. But it's a very small percentage of my audience right now that believes she's alive. But there are a few, so I don't want to discount them. That no lights at night situation in Tucson will have to change. I agree with that. But you know what? The problem is that the residents are so convinced that this is a good thing. And you can't change that. So it's a situation where it's kind of hard for me to express this in words, because I understand some of their position, but in the grand scheme of things, no matter what comes out of my mouth, it's going to sound very disrespectful, and it is what it is. But I think it's absolutely asinine and just stupid that they would literally put the welfare of wildlife above their safety. This is a cultural thing that people sometimes you just get in your own way. It's one of the biggest skills and biggest hurdles that I've had to overcome and still fight to this day, is sometimes I get in my own way, right? I don't see the forest for the trees. And it's a situation, in my opinion, like that. Are there a lot of people in the community that are sick and tired of this crap here, putting the welfare of wildlife above them? Yes, there are. But there's not enough. And they're comfortable with this. That's why I keep bringing up the creepers in their community, because I want to scare them. I want to scare them into reality, into common sense. It's like, you guys are putting yourself in danger over what? Some stupid wildlife? I'm sorry. I love to see javelinas and stuff like that. I love animals. I would never want to hurt an animal. I cry when I step on a freaking snail. Okay? Literally tears. Because I always try to be careful, especially when I know it's dewy outside, that I know I got snails around here. I'm not talking about the little itty bitty snails. I mean, my snails are like, a pretty big, they're pretty, and I'll hear a crunch and I know I killed one. And it breaks and I cry because I go out of my way to make sure I don't step on my snails. And so, I mean, I'm a lover of creatures. Okay. I'm a lover of human nature and the gifts that, godly stuff. I like the trees. I realize there's, I'm not arachnophobia type of person. I realize there's something, I just don't like it in my house. Right. I like it on the outside of my house. Right. And I'm pretty sure I'm there with everybody. If I got a rodent, it's dead. And if it comes in my house, okay. Arachnophobia, if it's they're dead if they come in my house. Okay. I like animals and creatures, but I like them on the outside of my house. So I just want to make sure I'm very clear on that. But I don't want anything injured, even if it's something that like maybe not like a, I kind of like everything except spiders and roaches and stuff like that. But even cockroaches, I'm not, if they're outside, I'm not running down the road trying to kill a cockroach. You know what I'm saying? Only if it's in my house. But I think of creatures. I don't want to see any creatures, but I would never, ever, ever put a creature's life above mine. Okay? I do scream. If I see it in my house, I scream. I scream so loud. I remember my cousin. I let my cousin live with me. He was it's one of those things that you do for family. He's a freaking drunk, And one of the rules was he couldn't drink in the house, which he freaking used to go out in the backyard and drink and throw beer cans in the boat So I couldn't find him. I didn't know. Had no idea. Anyways, he brought a snake into my house without my permission, a rat snake. And then I finally had enough, and I told my cousin he's got to move out. I don't know if he did it intentionally or not. Have no earthly idea. But the snake, he took the snake with him, allegedly. Well, when he got to the place he called me and said, "Cuz, yeah, because I unloaded the aquarium and the snake's gone." I'm like, "What do you mean the snake's gone?" He's like, the snake got out. I said, "Did it get out in the house?" He's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Okay, well, that happened. Out of sight, out of mind." And then I had, I had just had an air conditioning put into that house, and they forgot to put the foam around the little, flutes that bring the pipe, the refrigeration line in. If you have a house, or you guys know what I'm talking about, there's copper lines that got to go from the outside unit into the house. Well, what they're supposed to do is spray those holes with foam. So when it rains, those holes don't fill up with water because it's concrete block. They're porous, that water will come into the house. So that's what happened. I had this new air conditioning put in. They didn't foam around the lines. And so when we had a really bad rain, the rain was going right into that little bit of hole, right down into the wall, and it was coming and protruding onto the other side. I could see water coming in. I'm like, oh shit. So I had to cut the drywall out to let that area, dry out so I could put that section of drywall back on and fix it up. Well, while that drywall was out, I come walking in. This is when I had Scooby, which was my little pit bull. And he was barking down the hall. I'm like, what the hell are you barking at? He never barks in the house. So I walked down the hall and didn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, something slid across my foot. I looked down. It's a flippin' snake. You want to talk about screaming? Did you guys see me live when I stepped on the snake in North Carolina? I was live when I stepped on the snake in North Carolina. You guys see how I act when I see a snake that I'm not supposed to see? I'm right? And so that's what happened. I screamed. It was snakes. Okay, so I ended up closing that snake. It went under my tub, because that's the area that was leaking into the on the other side of that wall was a tub. So I sealed that sucker into that. There's no place for it to go. I'm pretty sure that snake died where it was, but whoever got that house, they have a rat snake dead inside of it near a tub. I'm just saying, not playing. That sucker got sealed up. I never had another freaking snake go over. But then a few years later, I ended up stepping on a snake out in North Carolina while I was live on my show, on the Bullhorn Betty show, and I thought I was dead. I thought it was not a water moccasin. I thought it was a copperhead rattlesnake. And it wasn't. It ended up being, oh, thank you. What is this? Restore faith. In my opinion, whoever did this must have known the home and routine very well. I think it's odd the garage door was open only 2 minutes. Why not walk her in? 2 minutes is a long time, though. Why Uber her to your house and drive her back? Just odd. I agree. The behavior, when in normal life, the behaviors don't raise any red flags. It only raises red flags because she's missing. And that's the reality of it. I know you don't think that, but it really is. In the reality of things, it's because in everyday normal life, there are grandmothers that Uber over to their children's house every day. Every single day. So, and every single day, somewhere around this country, a son-in-law is taking their mother-in-law home and walking her in the house. So these things really, in my opinion, when I think of these cases, and I've got to break it down, just like that, is this behavior really abnormal? No, it's not. I know we're making it abnormal, but there are literally millions of grandmothers all over, hundreds of thousands of grandmothers all over this country right now that are taking an Uber over to their child's house. You see what I'm saying? And we know that. We know that that's a true statement, And we also know that it's a true statement that there are many son-in-laws that drive their mother-in-laws home alone. And there's many son-in-laws that walk their mother-in-laws into their home. So it's hard to say that these things are suspicious. They became suspicious because this grandmother disappeared from her home. And very much so, we always look at everybody that has been in contact with the person, but specifically the last person. So just like a taxi, it is like a taxi. It's exactly like a taxi. Yeah, exactly. And so the only thing that got us looking at Annie and Tommaso is because when we started this case, we thought they were the last ones to see their mother alive. Well, clearly that's not the case. You know who was the last person to see their mother alive? That masked gunman on the outside of the house. He was the last person to see Nancy Guthrie alive. Not Tommaso. So that changes things, because once upon a time, in my opinion, now I'm not schooling you and I'm not educating, I'm just telling you my opinion, so you may agree, you may disagree, and that's perfectly fine, because we don't know what happened. So nobody's wrong or right here, because we don't know what happened. Everything is on the table, in my opinion. But what led us to Annie and Tommaso? It's because they were the last ones to see her. So as soon as we saw a masked gunman on the outside of Nancy's house, we should have realized that they were not the ones on the outside of her house. A masked gunman were. And many people did. So they started looking into the history of Annie and Tommaso, because they're the ones they don't make as much money as either one of the other siblings. They just bought a house a year ago. People are alleging there's financial constraints or gambling debt, but nobody's proffered any proof of that. It's been, in all fairness, statements or opinions of somebody, but we can't base our assessment on opinions of others. We have to base it on hardcore facts, and we do speculate here and we do theorize here, but one of the basis of our theories and speculation is real fact. Okay, we're not basing theories on speculation. And so this is where we butt heads with other creators, because could these things happen? Could there be gambling debts? Yes, but there's not. And if there were, then you should have some receipts to hold that, not just keep saying, oh, they had to have gambling debts. We would be able to see something a little more concrete, and we've got nothing. So I know it's easy to say that they had financial problems, but where's the proof of it? We see no bankruptcies in their history. We see no late payments in their history. They just purchased a home, which takes decent credit to purchase a home. You see what I'm saying? We know she's wrote a book. We don't know how much money she garnered from that book. We know she has. I mean, it costs money to keep a studio open for jewelry and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys know how expensive studios are, but they're fairly expensive a month. So you're talking about her having a separate business and a poetry type of class thing that they're doing. They seem like they're always working. And they seem very hippie-like, salt of the earth, one with the earth. And I don't know, and this is where I've always thrown this back to everybody, is I don't know too many hippies that are violent. Okay. Hippies are kind of like, hey man, let's not hurt the trees, that rock, don't take that rock, man, that's not cool. We want a rock to be there. Those are the types of people I think whenever you talk to Annie and Tommaso, you're going to find are more, adult hippies, right? Normal hippies. They probably do yoga and, crap like that. They're just with the earth. And And so I had to add that in my assessment against them because there was so many people that were beating him up and stuff like that. So I'm trying to really look, and I'm trying to look for that angle where, you know, these you know, bad guy. I mean, it takes, let's face it, folks. If it was just easy to go off a loved one every time somebody got frustrated or needed money, let's face it, a lot more people, it takes an appetite, okay? It takes a certain mentality in a person to carry something like that out. And it's not just about talking about it. Like, there's a lot of people that said, I wish I could kill so-and-so, right? And it's hyperbole. Right? The actual carrying out really takes some kahunas, because this is a person you broke bread with. This is, you know, it's not as easy. It really takes some either rage in you to do something like that or something else. It typically doesn't happen. I mean, yes, we do hear people unaliving people for profit and for money and for inheritance. But I mean, to be honest with you, if you looked at all the people that had inheritance and people that are in wills and trusts, it's a low percentage of people that actually execute somebody to kind of speed that along. It's in the lower percentile statistically, but it still does happen. And when it does happen to somebody, when somebody does disappear, it typically is somebody that person knows. That's statistics. And that's what keeps bringing us back to the family or somebody in the house. Could this been a domestic, and we said this before, one of the domestic people, like the gardener, the pool person, the housekeeper, the, the medical aid that comes by there and makes sure she's taking her medication or taking her blood pressure or whatever they're doing, whatever. How do we know that they didn't bring their children or, their children or the children's friend one day because they were out of school and those children got older and decided to go back and rob? We don't know. And then any drug use in the family. I have found zero drug use in the family, but here's the kicker, Mr. Dunham. I haven't found anybody outside of the family. You know what I'm saying? Like, who is Nancy's? Does Nancy have siblings? Like, that's the first question I have. Is Nancy an only child, or does she have siblings? Even if her siblings are deceased, does she have siblings? Because those siblings have family, right? Those siblings are in a family. So, we're saying this feels personal. This doesn't really, for me, which it could be wrong, because there's been a lot of stuff being proffered by criminologists as well as FBI agents that this could really truly be like one of these high profile robbery rings that go around, identify wealthy targets and go and rob them. And maybe something went wrong and they didn't want to leave her in there and they needed to get rid of her. So they're not charged with a homicide or what the case may be. There is some appetite for this being a stranger danger type of situation, unaffiliated with the family or anything like that. Oh, I missed some. Let me go back. Hold on. It looks like I missed some people's comments here. Hold on. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for your hard work. And I did answer you, Mouse. Okay, good. Okay. I forgot to put you guys some hearts here. There you go. And then in my opinion, the routine well, and there is something, but I really don't believe, I think if you break those things down, I think you just restored faith. I mean, I can't, in my opinion, I just believe, like I said, that if we broke those down, are they really suspicious activities? And I think that if we were to be honest with ourselves, I think these activities are really not suspicious. They were only suspicious when he became the last person that saw her. And I agree that they, anything would be. We even talked about the 2-minute going in. You're acting like it was only open for 2 minutes, but 2 minutes is really a long time. I was actually saying just the opposite. Like, I thought this, if she just walked right in the house and went right in the house, it shouldn't have taken her 2 minutes to close that garage door. And so with knowing that he walked her into the house and had to go back out to the car, that does make sense to me, why it took 2 minutes to shut the garage door. But if you have a garage, a 2-car garage with her, which is what her car garage is, and you've got to walk to the door to the inside of the house. If you had like a walker and you were walking a little, I even did the slow, like trying to walk like a, an older person, a little bit more slow and stuff like that. It didn't take 2 minutes. So I had questioned that too, but I think that if we looked at these things, and the things that made me even make Tommaso or Annie look suspicious was the fact that they were the last ones to see her, to drop her off. And it wasn't even that too. It had nothing. It wasn't just that. It was that coupled with them being at the house for an hour before they called law enforcement. Okay, let's not forget the huge mistake the sheriff made publicly by saying that they were called at 11 and went directly over to the house and sat there at the house for an hour before calling law enforcement. When Brian Enton went up to that front door and saw all that blood out the front door, and we're like, how can it take anybody an hour to call law enforcement seeing a sight like that on the outside of the door? So there were some other things that really made us think that Tommaso and Annie were on the hook. And it wasn't just this him dropping it off. It was them dropping him off last, because we thought it was both of them at first before it was Tommaso. And it was coupled with them going over to the house the next day and taking an hour to call law enforcement. That was all walked back. That was an untrue statement. It wasn't even like that. They did receive a call earlier, but it sounds like Annie nor Tommaso could get over to the house. So they didn't even know that there was anything really going on. When they finally got to the house, within minutes of them getting to the house, they called 911. They knew immediately something wasn't wrong. So I think that there was some miscommunication by the sheriff, which, put us on the path where we are with the sheriff today, where the sheriff's doesn't really like media at this point because he's been beat up, but it's because of stupid crap like this. Like he brought a lot of attention to Tommaso and Annie because he didn't have the facts of the case, and he was speaking factually about a case that he was wrong on the facts. And it comes back to this being important for us to have a good public information officer, because that's what the public information officer's job is, to keep all this stuff, proper and make sure that it's verified before it's released. And that's the problem. This wasn't verified before it was released. So what was their entry point? And they've never told us what the entry point is, but it appears it has to be a backside of the house entry point. And the reason why I say that is because there was no entry point from the front side of the house. We could observe the front side of the house. We cannot observe the back side of the house. We heard the back door was left ajar. So and even ajar. This is how I've learned, and we have to make some assumptions here, but they have to be assumptions. Nano painted a bag picture from that's it, to restore faith. That's where I'm at with it. I think he brought a lot of this on these folks that he shouldn't. He should have been more factual. He should have had the facts. He didn't have the facts at the beginning. He was just having a press conference and thinking, "Oh, I'll just supplement the information later," and not like he's completely ignorant to the true crime community. Like this is a huge community. We have Crime Con now for everything that's holy, right? Crime Con is, for the crime junkies. Like we've got it. This is a huge movement. Because I think it's a movement because, much like everything else, we're sick and tired of the same status quo. I think the whole world is tired of the status quo. At least us Americans are. And it's like, you know what? We're so sick of being told it can't be done any better. Move aside. I think that's the way we are at this point. We're just so sick of our government. We know that we need them, but we're just sick and tired of them. We're sick and tired of people telling us we need to know this, we need to be this, we need to do this. I think we just want to paint our own way when we're sick and tired of everybody painting us into a frickin' box, right? That's just how I believe, And I think that that's where the whole true crime come from, because we're so sick and tired of watching from the sidelines and watching all these terrible mistakes happening over and over and over again. And we can see them from the sidelines, but the people working them can't see them making the mistakes. It gets a little frustrating, and we have to show some grace, because this is high intensity work, and we would never be perfect at this job if we were in the job. So we can't expect law enforcement to be perfect at it as well. We expect them to be honest and dedicated, and we expect them to have integrity. So when they get out of line on those factors, like when they do things that they shouldn't do to the public, we get very angry and we move them on. But those people are few and far between the overall body, at least in my experience of law enforcement. I'm very gracious. We do have good law enforcement in this country. We could have a lot more corruption. I will point that out, because there's a lot more corruption in a lot of other countries. We do better in the realm of corruption. Do we still have it? Of course we do. We see it every day. But it's few and far between of what other countries see. So anyways, let's get back to this. In addition to all of this stuff and all of these potential people, and us feeling like this was, that people are trying to put in this box that this is a robbery or burglary that's gone bad. And I'm kind of saying, I don't believe that's the case. And then we're finding out that this might have been more premeditated and planned than we thought, which kind of, in my opinion, gives us rise to that bought and paid for person to do this, versus it being a ransom, like somebody paid somebody to go in here and do this to this woman. Now we're learning that there's this potential internet outage, and it's making feds actually look in this area. Was there an internet outage? And if there was, that might explain. Remember, we saw the guy acting really nonchalant out front. Maybe he felt so comfortable because he knew his internet breaker wouldn't allow them to see him. Maybe he thought that. But then brings me to a next question. If he did have this internet blocker or something to prevent that signal, no, she has not. No, she has not. Mia May, no, she has not been found, unfortunately. But we're hearing that there might have been this internet blocker. They're illegal in the United States, but from my understanding, you can still order them online somewhere. Was this blocker used? And if the blocker was used, here's the next question. How would they had the residual images of this man at her door? Because they went through the internet. How could it go through the internet if they're blocking? Internet jammer. Yeah. How could they get these images of this man out of her front door if he had a internet jammer or signal jammer? You see what I'm saying? So I'm kind of bouncing back and forth whether this is a legitimate thing, or maybe that particular house that may have had an internet outage may have just been that particular house for whatever equipment that they had. Maybe their equipment reset and went down, and when it was resetting, it showed that internet outage just for them, but not necessarily for everybody else in the neighborhood. So we do have the question about this internet outage, whether it really did happen and whether it did affect Nancy's house. But we have to be logical here, because, again, we're looking at residual images. That guy at that door, that's residual images that were found on Google, even though she didn't have a subscription. And the only way I can process that, now I'm not an engineer. I know nothing about the internet or how it functions. I'm just like you. I come here, I log in, I use it, and that's it. But there is a little bit of common sense, or a little bit of cogs turning here in my head, because it's telling me these are the reason why these images were in the residual area is because even though she didn't have a subscription, in order for it to get from her camera out on the front door to her app, even without the subscription, it goes through the internet. And I think by it going through the internet, that's what gave it the residual videos and stuff, because even though it's not, like, again, not subscription, it's not categorized or cataloged like it would normally be, but it is running through the internet to get to that app. So when she pushes the button, she can look at her camera from her app. And I think that if he had the jammer, that would block that being the case. And so if he had the jammer, I don't see how they would have been able to pick up that extra residual images and videos. Even the one from February 11th, you see? So I've got questions on this jammer, and that's because of those statements. Now, I could have it all wrong. And they may be able to logically explain how the residual videos and data Google was able to pull in addition to the jammer being activated. You know, there may be something, because again, I know nothing about this stuff. This is well beyond my pay grade. I'm more ignorant about this stuff than I am about autism. At least I had a common understanding, like many other people did, about autism. Although wrong, albeit wrong, it was not accurate information, but we had already all heard about autism. We never heard about this residual data. You know, this is going to be very interesting. When this case goes to trial, we're going to learn a lot about this, because they're going to have to explain it to a jury, how they got that. Maybe she wasn't supposed to be home, and that could be it, Laura. I mean, there is that possibility. We did discuss that there is, you know, she doesn't have a car outside of the house. Anybody that drives past that house morning, noon, or night probably doesn't see any vehicles there. They probably could have thought this was a vacation house for somebody else. They could have very well thought that this was a vacant property. And I think that's why a lot of these FBIs are starting to talk about, like, the Chilean robbery rinks. The rings that are going around and targeting high profile places. They usually want to hit those places that have, you know, they even go into stars' homes and rob them. But they hit their other homes. They don't hit the homes that they think people are occupied in. So, you know, maybe this is one of those things where, yes, this lady lost her life, but when they went into the house, they weren't expecting anybody there, and it shocked them, it shocked her, and bada bing, bada boom, she's gone. And they're like, yeah, we got to take her with us. If she stays here, they're going to know, you know, whatever. But in a piece of me, it would make me think that they would know by transporting her into their personal vehicle that it is going to physically attach them to her and to her house when they find that vehicle. That's why I asked, is there in a 100-mile radius or a 200-mile radius, has any cars been set on fire? Has anybody seen any cars go into a river? Is there a river in the 100-mile radius where people dump vehicles for insurance proceeds or whatever? We used to have a pond here where everybody used to take their vehicle to when they were done with it and roll it into the freaking pond. I don't even know. I don't know why people do what they do, so don't ask me. I have no earthly idea why people did stuff like that. But I heard that there is a pond. I've never personally been at that pond. I've never personally seen vehicles being pulled out of the pond. But I know here in Manatee County, we have a pond that people, when they get sick and tired of their car, they can't make the payments anymore. They go take their freaking car to a trip out in the pond. And then all of a sudden, their financial problems are resolved. You know, I don't know if they do that anymore. I think they might have got caught up on that. That was like 15, 20 years ago, you know? Oh, you got home from the hospital. Aw, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you're feeling a little better. I'm in South Carolina. One night last week, I had a message from my camera. It was offline for 30 minutes. Maybe the internet out for 30 minutes. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, but that you would expect your other neighbors to get. But what I'm hearing here, and this is interesting, and I don't understand it, is that it's one neighbor. We haven't heard this from multiple neighbors. That's why, I mean, they are looking into it, but we're hearing it from one neighbor.
So my question would be, are we sure that there wasn't like maybe something that reset in just that neighbor's home? Versus, like if my internet went out, everybody that's on FiOS in this area would be out. They would be out of stuff. So I don't know. Let's listen to what they have here. We might be able to decide if this is more than one neighborhood. But again, it's just, if I remember correctly, I did listen to this, but I don't believe that it was more than one neighbor that brought this up. And it was because they do have the logs for their camera, and it shows that around this time, theirs was ixnayed.
Rethink the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. From the start, a common assumption was that this was a relatively amateur operation. Premeditated, yes, but not that sophisticated.
That's what we thought.
Well, now there's a major...
Oops. Hold on.
New focus as the search nears week number 6. The FBI is now looking at internet outages around the time the 84-year-old disappeared. The new development comes as FBI agents head back to Guthrie's Tucson neighborhood and canvass residents there door to door. They're asking if anyone's internet went out that morning, the morning that Guthrie vanished. If so, it could have disabled their surveillance cameras during that critical time period and prevented them from recording what could be valuable evidence in Guthrie's case.
It makes you wonder, the way they're saying it here is what if they, when they realized things were going bad and they realized this lady was in the house, what if they triggered it at that moment? To get out of there. And, I don't know. I don't know how these things work or how long they work for, or do you turn it on and it just goes and goes and goes until you turn it off, or do you hit a button and it works for like 20 minutes and then it goes off? I don't know. Maybe we need to look into that aspect of it, because I'm absolutely unsure how these jammers work.
This all comes as investigators zero in further on the doorbell camera video. It's really the only clue they have so far.
It's the only clue that they have so far that is public. I want to make sure that we are being realistic here. I believe this law enforcement body has a lot more information than we know. I believe that they have a lot more information than that is public. I'm hoping that they're identifying somebody it might be. I'm hoping they're still getting DNA samples. I'm still hoping, it looks like this is far from being a cold case. I mean, we every few days we have activity at the Guthrie home, whether detectives or FBI's are coming there, or locksmiths, people coming to put cameras up, so this is good, positive stuff that we like. But my only concern is, as soon as the media is struggling to stay there, and as soon as media is out, this case goes bye-bye. We're not going to hear anything about it, folks. Okay? We're not. And that part terrifies me, because we're so highly invested in this case, and we've got no place to work, no place to move, no place to, go. Didn't get my notification. Didn't mean to text you during. Oh, did you text me? I didn't hear it today. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I didn't even see it. We're good. We're good.
Hey, everybody. Tim Burchett.
We're good. We're good. Oh, yeah.
I woke up this morning thinking about some stuff, and that sort of kind of makes me angry. I hear people saying, they're trafficking. Well, we got to get that straight. They're pimps. And when they say trafficking young kids across state lines for sex with adults, no, they're not. They're selling these kids to get raped. I think we try to sanitize stuff. In Hollywood, shows the pimp and dressed in the fine clothes and the nice car and, talking tough and all that. And that's all these people are. They're awful, awful, demonic people. And they deserve to burn in hell.
I agree. Anybody that hurts a kid. Anybody who hurts a kid. And again, that is a representative of Tennessee. We've been in Tennessee. He gets it. He gets it. Because I got to tell you, we've been in Tennessee about how horrible they've been to their children.
I tell people all the time, Tennessee is not a safe state for children. It's not a safe state for children. It looks like a safe state. You think it would be a safe state. It's not. It's not. The culture in Tennessee protects the predator, not the child. And and I have been bringing awareness to that for 5 years. 5 years. And it's cost me going to jail. I'm in court right now because the Department of Children and Family Services suck out there. People know that have been here, have watched me go through what I am a fighter, and we're taking on this. We're taking on others. We're going into Kentucky. Like, I'm done. I'm so done with this stuff with our children. I want everybody that's not focusing on our kids out of office. Everybody that's corrupted out of office. I'm tired. This is affecting all of us. And we all have to stand up and say enough's enough. And of course they will, because like even that, just running that, Tim Burchett, his statements there, guess what they're going to do? They're probably going to censor it here or tell me that I've got to remove that language or not get advertisements on this live because of the language he used, actually calling what's happening to these children rape, because that's what it is. And that is a lawful legal term in the United States. It's not graphic. It is a legal term. And we've got to remember that. And when our social medias force us to censor, then you guys are getting a sanitized version of that, and you don't think it's as bad as it is. And it's time for us to understand that we can't fix something if we're sanitizing it. We can't see something for what it is if we're not doing what we need to do. This stuff and this corruption and these horrible laws affect everybody, including 84-year-old grandmothers in Arizona. Okay? Including 84-year-old grandmothers in Arizona.
Capturing the masked suspect approaching Nancy's door. Here's what they're now focused on. See that small black device that was in the man's pocket? They're wondering if this could be a signal jammer, which the suspect could have used to cause an internet blackout. It's a theory that our own Brian Enton checked out. Brian, you made some interesting discoveries as you went around in the neighborhood. What did you find?
Yeah, it's interesting, Elizabeth. You know, we knew for the last couple of days that the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's detectives were asking neighbors right near Nancy's house if they had any kind of internet outage or internet disruption around the time that Nancy went missing, early morning hours of February 1st. And it turns out there are neighbors behind Nancy's house, like back behind the house. There's a desert area, and they live on the other side. And right around the time of Nancy's disappearance, 2 of their Ring cameras on the back side of the house, which would have been closest to Nancy's house, were not working. They showed up as not available, which is apparently something that has never happened before. And it only happened during that period, early morning hours, February 1st. Also interesting, at the same time, Elizabeth, they tell me that their dog woke them up in the middle of the night, which is something that has basically never happened before, they say, and wanted to go outside, and then was staring in the direction of Nancy's house. Now, there's been these questions about the possibility of signal jammers. You showed the picture of one. There's a little antenna sticking out of the suspect's pocket, it appears to be. Could be a walkie-talkie. It's possible it's a signal jammer. It's also possible, if it was one, that it would have knocked out Ring cameras and cell phones in the area while he was there. We know the FBI is looking into it, Elizabeth.
Fascinating. All right, Brian Enton, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone. And
I can't stand Chris. Fredo. I do not like him. I love Brian. I do not like Chris. Do not like Chris. I love me some Brian, though. I love me some Brian. So, yeah, I mean, is it possible? Yeah. But now we need to look at what would make some signals jam up, but not others. Maybe she was on a different type of wired system that didn't jam. Maybe that will explain why they had the residual videos. Because if he was jamming the system, how the heck did they get this image? How the heck did they get this image? The crime was sexually motivated. Dub, I've said that from the beginning because that's been one of my theories.
You always have to look at and I remember even talking to people that are like 84. It's like, we've got a man that if you go to X and type in, 94-year-old woman, ARD, spell out the word, right? And you will see this young kid that's been arrested for essaying a 94-year-old woman. 94-year-old woman. Poor lady, frail lady. How dare you? How dare you? And so the idea that doesn't happen, then we have the porch guy. You know what? That porch guy, that was something. That was a little something. That porch guy, I hear that a lot of these people are like within a mile or 2 miles of the home when these incidences happen, but that's, in my opinion, fairly close. And what is he was hiding from somebody. Was he hiding from somebody chasing him? Was he hiding from lights? Did he think he was caught? Did he just do something he wasn't supposed to and trying to run for cover? And that was one of like 10 people we've seen creeping in the middle of the night. This is scary. I do not feel safe in the foothills of Catalina foothills. I do not feel safe in that area. I do not feel safe in Tucson. I would be very concerned for my safety if I was a Tucson resident, because you have a full failure of law enforcement out there. And law enforcement can beat up and shame media and social media all they want. It's not fixing their problem. Sticking your head in the sand like an ostrich shows you have no ability to take constructive criticism and fix the issue. What it shows the world is that you don't know how to police. Chris Nanos is bad for that community. And one, he's trying to block media from exposing the fact he's a horrible sheriff that should do better. And instead of coming up with excuses, take ownership and personal responsibility and make the necessary changes in the department so this nonsense here doesn't happen again. That's what my suggestion would be. But he's too busy blocking mean old social media. And oh my gosh, you can't even talk to Brian Enton anymore because Brian Enton has been critical. What do you find out? This is what I talk about. This is how they control their media, because they 86 the media that doesn't do what they want. This is how they've been able to control the media in the communities for so long. You want to know why you get propaganda? It's because if they don't engage in this, they don't get those interviews with the politicians. You know what I say? This is what I say. Politicians need social media. You cannot win an election in 2026, 2028, 3030, 3032 without social media. And if you're going to keep dogging social media, you will never be elected again. There is no way mainstream media can take politicians and get them elected anymore. Nobody trusts mainstream media anymore. As a matter of fact, you go on mainstream media, you're most likely already 86 before your interview's over. All right? It's just like taking money from developers. You are the Antichrist if you are a politician and you take money from the developers. Okay? So we need to start changing our way of thinking and holding these politicians' feet to the fire, because they're going to need you. They're going to need you to put their face, because they're going to have to pay a shit ton of money for advertisements on social media and mainstream media. They're going to need that free advertisement from mainstream media and social media. So we need to start saying, you know what, you're going to be disrespectful to us. We're not going to cover you when it's time for elections. We're not going to want to interview you. We're going to interview your competition instead. We need to start putting these politicians back in their place and let them know you do not control us. We don't have to even promote you. We don't have to put you on our show. We don't have to say a kind thing about you, and we can promote your competition. And we need to start holding their feet to the fire, because that's what social media does the best. But Brian Enton has been 86. He's not getting another meeting. They want to give meetings to NBC, Savannah station. I find that absolutely against constitutional rights. And I think it's time for people to start suing these counties that show favoritism, because we're all covered under the same Constitution. We're all journalists, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. Some of us are just a little more activists than journalists. You know, people come here, they know I'm an activist. I'm a political activist. You see what you get. I've never changed my stripes. I've never hidden my stripes. I've never lied to my audience about it. Everybody's known where I've stood on everything. I've been doing this for years. But this right here, signal jammers, we're finding this out almost 2 months later. We're in our second month. She disappeared on the 1st. We're 5 weeks in. We're starting our 6th week. Yeah. X and YouTube is media now. I don't even consider TikTok media anymore. That's just a freaking... all they want you to do is sell. Sell. You can't, as a content creator, you can't do shit on TikTok anymore. They will not promote your videos unless you're selling products. I'm not going to sell products for TikTok. Okay? I'm just not going to do it. So the people that are on TikTok, you guys are not going to be taken seriously. If you want to be taken seriously, it's time for you to get back, as crazy as it sounds, on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Because TikTok is dying. If they can't promote, as a matter of fact, I think people need to be suing them. You guys understand, I sue. Why? Because it corrects a lot of action. If a cease and desist letter does not correct action, lawsuit's the only thing that corrects action. Having to pay money, having to be punished publicly, that's the only thing that corrects this type of stuff. When you're censored, you need to fight our nation to fall to their knees and pray for our leaders regardless of a political affiliation. I'm just the opposite. I think we need to fire them all. I think we need to fire our federal government. Our federal government hasn't worked for us for decades. Okay? We put people in office that do exactly the opposite of what they promised us they were going to do. They go in there and they care about their special interests. They care about the funding. Because we go out there and we vote for them. We think they represent us. They don't represent us. They represent the people that got them the funding that put them before us. So if we don't agree with the people that are funding them, we're not going to be agreeing with their decisions for us. And that's the situation we're in. I think the whole entire federal government, Democrats, independents, and Republicans, have failed the American people for far too long. They've cost us billions to trillions of dollars. We're in debt, and all they want to do is shut down our government, as if like they think that they can just take our money and whip us into shape. The hell with our federal government. Our entire federal government needs to be fired. We should not be paying for this bullshit. Period. On all sides of the aisle. None of us should be paying for this bullshit. Our entire country has been neutered, okay? By all of this back and forth between them. It's time for the people to step up and start working with one another and kick all these assholes out of office. And put statesmen in there that can actually work together. Because I'm tired of the special interest bullshit. It's not helping us. This good old boys club is not helping any of us. It's taking advantage of us, taking our money, keeping us poor, keeping their foot on all of our necks, keeping us from succeeding or thriving or coming after their jobs. They keep us broke for a reason. They keep us ignorant for a reason. It's time for us to wisen up. We've got all of this stuff at our fingertips. We can all figure this out. Okay? It's time for us to stand up in spirit and say, hey, you know what? I like you. You like me. Okay, let's take the far right and the far left and kick them the fuck out of our areas, right? And us come together and tell the federal government, get the hell out. You don't belong here. You're not helping us. And let's go help ourselves. That's what we need to do. We need to be out there helping ourselves, because if we keep relying on our federal government to do it, we're going to keep being broker and broker and broker. Our society's going to get sicker and sicker and sicker. We're going to be at more peril, and we're going to be hunted by the crazed in this country if we don't put an end to it. Okay? Fire the federal government. That's my position. We don't need them. You know how I know we don't need them? We haven't had them for at least 15 years. Raise your hand if you tell me what our federal government has done to benefit the American people in 15 years. I don't care who you are. If you're a Democrat, independent, you're a right-wing freak, you're a left-wing freak, tell me what our federal government has done to benefit any of us. One thing. Just name one blessed thing that they've done to benefit any of us in 15 freaking years. Anybody? I sell on TikTok. I'm glad you do. I can't do it. I can't do it. I just want to know. What positive statement, Democrats, what positive statement do you have to say about our federal government? I've got none. I've got none. I can tell you my Florida government here is putting their neck on every single county to benefit political parties here. And a super majority. Let me tell you about that. That's on my side. I'm about to go to frickin' Tallahassee. I'm moving closer to Tallahassee so that bullshit doesn't happen anymore. They lied to my face when I was up in Tallahassee. Let me tell you what. The people in the state of Florida, you have no idea what I'm capable of. None. And it's lawful and legal because I push the envelopes. I absolutely do it. I'm a proud problematic woman. And they have injured. Nobody can say one damn good thing that our federal government has done in 15 years. Not one of us. Not one of us. So why are we paying them? Millions upon millions of dollars. Not just them. They're lobbyists. They're all their assistants. We're giving them health, retirement. We're even giving them cars, places to live, and a slush fund so they can go rape their assistant and pay her off. And we're not allowed to be entitled to that information. What the hell has our government done for us? Somebody's saying 30 years. Yeah, let's expand it. What has our government done, benefited us in 30 years? Less than 3 decades. What have they done to help us? Please. I'm sure everybody's ready to bust out their seams and tell me how much they love the federal government. All right, well, now let me ask you a question. Why the hell do you keep supporting it? It's time to stop paying taxes. It's time to fire our federal government and build a new government based upon statesmen. Remove all the money out of our federal government. You are not getting paid to represent your government. You want to be a senator? Be a statesman. Have your heart in the right place because you ain't getting a free retirement off the taxpayers. Remove the financial benefit from our federal government and let's build our government from the ground up. That's what needs to happen. And until we, the people, are ready to do all that, we're going to keep paying for nothing. Absolutely nothing. Trillions of dollars for absolutely nothing. Again, if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. My email is bullhornbetty@gmail.com, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. Please tell me, what has your government done for you so great in the last 30 years that you're just ready to tell me that it was worth all these trillions of dollars in debt we're in? Term limits aren't enough. Term limits aren't enough. It's not enough. It's time for the federal government to go. They got to go. They have done nothing for us for 30 years. 30 years. Okay? I'm 46 years old. I have never seen anything positive in our government. Have you? Bullhornbetty@gmail.com, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. All right, guys, it's time for church. For those that are going to church, you guys got about 30 minutes to get yourselves ready. Out the door, guys, you have a great and blessed day. I will be back around 11 o'clock. We're going to have an all-day kind of discussion point. We got several cases that are going on that are coming to fruition. And even Michael Monkey Vaughn. Hallelujah. 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 We're getting some movement and some justice for a 5-year-old boy. And hearing the details is crushing my heart. But we will fight for them, you know. And I just want to remind people, the majority of our cases, not Michael Monkey Vaughn. He was truly a stranger danger case, which is sad. But all these cases we cover. All these cases we cover. The majority of these cases, their parents did it. The majority of these cases where their parents have done it, the Department of Children and Family Services were involved before the child died and did nothing. Again, I am over my federal government. I am sick of them telling me they got this, and every time we turn around, we are let down. After spending millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. I am so sick of ineffectiveness. And I hope people start getting out and getting involved in their community and start
Start fighting for rights of these children. Our children need to be our common goal. Our children need to be our unity across this board with Republicans, Democrats, and independents. Keep your freaking hands off our kids. Our kids are our generations. They're our futures. They're our future politicians. They're our future business owners. They are our future. They are the future of this country's survival. And we have to give them a fighting chance to be that future. And when we got sick parents hurting their children, it's ruining them. They have no future. They end up being on drugs and alcohol because they have to hide or try to push down the pain that they're going to have to live with the rest of their lives. And I'm sick of it. We need to be having homes for these kids that they can thrive in. And I'd prefer those homes to be with their own mommies and daddies, not somebody else's. But in this country, we have things wrong, majorly wrong. And you know who suffers? The most vulnerable, our children and our grandparents. Those are the ones that suffer the most. So please, guys, I know I ask a lot of you guys. We are the channel of action here, okay? That's what sets us apart from everybody else. We are the channel of action. We want people to get up and do something. Get up and do something. Joshua, we're not rude with people here. If you can't handle it, then you are acting like a jackass. Maybe you should leave. Somebody go ahead and block Joshua. Over here, this is not anybody can say anything. You come over here, you're rude to me or rude to my audience, we block you. Okay, if you don't know how to adult, we throw you out of here. This is not a JLR chat. It is a privilege to be in this chat. A privilege. And once you are kicked out, you never come back. You will never be able to use that account on this channel again. You'll have to create a new account. And it's getting harder and harder for people to create accounts. So pretty soon, you keep pissing people off, you'll never be able to speak on here again. If you haven't noticed, all these trolls, the reason why they're dying down is because they're putting metrics in place to make it harder for them to create troll accounts on this platform. If you haven't noticed. So I'm just telling you, all you trolls, your days are limited. Your days are limited. I told you when I came on this platform, I was going to make it safer for people. And I gave you guys a 5 to 10 year period of time in which I was going to do it. Okay? I'm very successful in my diplomacy around this country, period. Okay? So at the end of the day, I knew how long it was going to take me. Because I know I've been doing this a long time. I know how long I can walk and chew gum. And as you see, some of the stuff with AI has really helped. But we're never going to stop until we eradicate this bullying on these platforms. If you want to become a bully, you're going to be silenced. We're going to start silencing all the bullies. We love people to have their First Amendment, but that comes with that's limited. Unfortunately, you have consequences to your words. And it's time for people to start realizing that. You're not going to be murdered because of them, but you will lose your job. You will lose your voice on a public platform. So keep it clean, folks. That's all I'm asking. Keep it clean. Be nice. Be respectful. Everybody can get along. If it's something you don't like, move on. That's it. It's very simple stuff. All right, guys. Rock it out with your coffee beans out. I hope you guys learned something on Nancy Guthrie. We've still got a lot of stuff to go over. Many of you guys know I'm not off Luke. I know people are saying he's been cleared. You know, I believe that the sheriff did say in part, you know, we've moved on from this, but his hand is causing me problems. The fact that he has tattoos and wearing this thick, long sleeves so nobody can see anything. The fact that he has a gold ring that's off of one finger and put on another. And can we see, a band here? I mean, possibly. Is there an indentation for a ring there? Possibly. Like, why is he wearing his ring on a wedding finger when he's not married? Seems like he changed it from one hand to the other, if you ask me. So this whole situation with these hands, the right hand being injured, him actually having a ring that he loves, that he obviously moved to his ring finger as if he's married when he's not married, tells me he took it off his ring finger on that hurt hand. How did he hurt his hand? Ripping down a floodlight? You know, we don't know. I'm just saying that no matter how we feel, I'm not willing to give this guy up yet. Because I was past him. Far past him, right? Didn't even think about Luke Daly. Like, oh, they must have effed up. You know, it's Sheriff Chris Nanananos, right? Right? So I moved. I'm like, okay, well, they obviously didn't know what the hell they were doing. Didn't even look at, I don't even think we really covered Luke Daly. I think I spent 15 minutes on the dude. All right? 15 minutes on the dude. And that was it. Out of all these weeks, I think we spent more time on Tommaso than we did on this Luke Daly guy. And I got to tell you, this Luke guy, I was done. He was off my list. He was, you know, I didn't even think about it, out of sight, out of mind guy. And somebody sends me his hand. And this is it. Before there was any raids, somebody called into this show and said they believed his right hand was injured. Okay? And I remembered that because I couldn't tell. And I remember not being able to tell, but I remember that conversation because I looked. When you actually do an action like looking at the hand, because it appears to be injured or somebody brought it up and you can't see that injury, you remember that. Because I don't have too many call-in shows. I think so far on this one, we've had maybe 3 call-in shows. I think a total of maybe less than 10 people have called into the shows because I don't leave them open that long. And I stay on the phone until the conversation is over. So I've had about 3 person per show. So that is about 9. I'm throwing 10 in because I'm pretty sure we spoke to more people then. It might have been 11 or 12. Might have been Baker's dozen. But not that many. It wasn't like hundreds. So I very, very, very distinctly remember that conversation. I couldn't remember who it was, and I brought it up yesterday. And Turkey Man called in and said I was the one that told you that it looked like his hand was injured. And I remember he wasn't the first one that I heard somebody reference a hand being injured. It appeared a hand was injured by with the video. And so when somebody sent me this photo and said, "Look at his hand," that's when I stopped and I looked. And this is for the first time that I've actually looked at Luke Daly as a real suspect in this matter. I am looking at him as a real contender in this matter. I'm not saying it's him. I'm not throwing him under the bus. I believe Sheriff Nanos has, made his statement, something to the effect he didn't come out and clear either Carlos or Luke, but he did say we got our proper warrants and stuff, and we did what we needed to do, and we moved on. So does that mean they're still processing that DNA or not? And now seeing his hand, now having the ring, now seeing those shoes, it makes you wonder, is it possible it could have been Luke? And my answer is, I haven't heard the sheriff come out directly and say Luke has been cleared. I would like to hear that, but I don't think he's going to do that. But maybe he is. And when he does do that, we'll move on from Luke. But until that moment comes, I am looking at Luke. Me personally. And again, I want to put the caveat, I'm not accusing this man of doing anything wrong. This might be a total coincidence that somebody just happened to say they thought the assailant's hand was hurt in the video, and it wasn't even hurt. And his hand just happens to be swollen. Okay? So again, not accusing Luke of anything. I'm just saying I'm not willing to take him off the list just yet. So that's where I'm at with Luke. And this is the first time you guys have heard me say that about anybody in this case. Even Tommaso. I was never really on board with Tommaso. And I told you guys that that I think it's somebody like Tommaso. But that was before we saw a masked gunman on the outside of her door. That changed everything about this case. When we got to see the monster. It changed everything. All of my opinions about the case altered just a little bit. And some majorly.
So that's kind of where we are with this case, folks. But if you want to know my opinion about Luke Daly, I'm not taking him off the list. I can't until this is resolved, because there's just some things here. Look, I'm a common sense person. Why is he wearing such thick clothes? And I understand he wants to wear a tie and maybe long sleeve shirt, but you're talking about a thick flannel he's wearing. And he's got it so tight around here. And we know that we're looking for some tattoos. Does he have tattoos on his arm? Does he have tattoos on his right arm? Does he have bruising on his right arm? It might be bruising too. Remember, he's got a hurt hand. So was it tattoo or bruising? But we can't see. Now, let's see. Do we have, I know we have the photos here. Do we have any? We don't even have. I'd like to see. Yeah, I don't have it. I would like to. I'd like to see. I'd like to see his right wrist. I really would. I'd like to see his right wrist. And I heard he talked to mainstream media, and if he's willing to talk to mainstream media, I wonder if he's, out and about in the community. Does anybody know, or has anybody seen photos of him? Can anybody find out what, if any, tattoos he has on his arms? I see there was a tattoo on the top of his hand, his left hand. And it makes me realize he's not opposed to tattoos. Some people don't have tattoos. They don't like tattoos. I'm one of those people that like tattoos, just not necessarily on me. I've got a little heart on my ankle that I did when I was 15. I swore I was never going to get a tattoo again up until Sebastian. And I got Sebastian's army on my shoulder because I've never been arrested in a case. This is going to be one of the cases, and it's going to be a historical case all the way around. So we are part of Sebastian's army. I fought like hell for this boy, and so that's why I chose to get that tattoo in his honor and in the honor of Sebastian's army, which we all are in part. So will I get another tattoo? Maybe, but I'm not really a tattoo. I'm not really into all the tattoos. I will be honest with you. So some people are, some people aren't. I'm just not really one that's really into the tattoos. So I'd like to see what he has, if he has any. So if anybody knows this guy, if anybody's willing to speak to me on the record or off the record, I'm talking about Luke Daly. Luke Daly wants to speak to me on the record or off the record. I'm willing to speak to him. In the detainment video at Culver's, you can clearly see his right hand is very swollen while being detained that night. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Terry. Yeah, I think I do have a problem. The hand is the reason why I'm looking at. I won't lie to you why I'm looking at Luke. It's the hand. It's specifically the hand. The swollen hand is exactly why I'm looking at him. So he's not off Bullhorn Betty's list. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a monster. I'm not saying he did anything to Nancy. But right now, because of those statements that were had earlier, based upon purely from the video, and then now seeing his hand, I do see a swollen hand. Somebody identified a right hand having an injury. I'm seeing his right hand have an injury. Enough said. He's on my list, period. Okay? All right, guys, rock it out with your coffee beans out. We will be back later this afternoon. Please come over and support the channel. I haven't decided what time every day in the evening I want to start doing a show. We're going to pick a time, and we're going to be consistent on that time every evening for the show. And once I find out what it is, we're going to set that in stone. The only caveat is it probably won't be on Saturday. Saturday is too volatile for me with Delilah and what time I get home. That changes from evening to evening. Like last night, I was home at like 5:45, so I was able to run a show very early, which I ended up having technical issues that brought the show to its knees, literally 2 seconds after starting it. So, that was just a coinky dink. We don't always have that. But my computer is older and we do a lot with it. The poor thing, I'm probably going to have to pay to get the battery up, done in the computer, which is not going to be a big deal. But it seems like I'm having some battery
the battery needs to be replaced in this machine. So it's not like it's a big deal. I mean, it's fixable. So, what I'm trying to say is I think we're going to hold up just fine, at least for the next year. I got new equipment to take some of the pressure off the machine itself. I just can't hook it up yet until I get my new camera. So we've got things in the process, so we're just going to have to make do, but I don't think we're going to have another total failure like we did yesterday, okay? I did check the computer. I think we'll be good at least for another 6 months, because the last time it did it like it did last night was 6 months ago when I reset it. So I reset it again last night. We finally got up and running. Everything was kosher. It's just that by the time I got there, I was frazzled, as you can imagine. I had smoke coming out of my ears. I had flames coming out of I was spitting nails, okay? I didn't think it was conducive. Oh, thank you. I got your pens. They're right here. They haven't gone in the mail yet. I have to wait until Monday. So I'm printing off all the stuff and getting it packaged up. I'll have it packaged up today to take to the, I think I'm going to send your stuff UPS. I think instead of regular mail, I think I'll send it UPS through like Priority or something like that. So whatever it is. But Grave Crime with Grace just gifted 5 Bullhorn Betty memberships. Thank you for those 5 Bullhorn Betty memberships. It looks like Bass Girl, Tinks, Julie, Kenny, and Not a Catfish. Welcome to this crazy family we call the Coffee Club, i.e. the Insane Asylum. Grab your straitjacket in your padded room and welcome aboard. And before we leave, I've been horrible. I've been missing a lot of super chats, and I want to apologize to everybody for that. But thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mouse. Restored Faith. I think we discussed yours at length. Again, thank you so much, Sonia. I appreciate your love and support. Melanie, aw, you helped me out with my, aw, thank you. Thank you. I love you. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are taking care of your health. And then, of course, Grave Crime with Grace, because I'm a love machine. Ow! All right. You guys go have a great day. We'll see you later today. Bye.